This is the Netflix one-month overview reading for the month of September 2023. It's currently July 16th, 2023, 2:31 p.m. Eastern Time. NFLX at the time of this reading in the extended hours was $442.91. That's USD. And the shuffle file for the September reading was created on July 4th, 2023 at 7:56 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video right here. The overall theme and behavior for Netflix in the month of September is notably bullish. We come out of what may be lowest lows here. When we look at the 1 year, it's possible that we have lowest lows early on in September, maybe possibly twice, like two bottoms, and it looks like that's possible taking place around the 11th, 12th, and the 18th, 19th, with a high at the end of the month being that this is a pretty bullish month. So it's like we're attempting to establish support, which is what the crossing card is, the 4 of attempting to establish support on a multi-day scale. Behavior off of the high, there's a notable decline off of the high with a prominent trough at the bottom of that decline, and then behavior around the lowest low. There'll be a notable price level on a multi-day scale that was probably acting as resistance for some time. There'll be a lot of price change to or from the low or both, and a lot of price change on a multi-day scale. It'll stand out. Difficult to determine exactly in the following month. I think we go pretty bullish from here. So the low, we probably go off of the low and then come back to the low and then rise up off the low is my sense. And that's why it's the Ace of Swords, because there is a possibility to make some money in both directions if you time yourself correctly around that price level. That's what we've got for the overall behavior for the month of September. We're going to get into the day-by-day chart behavior. We're running roughly a 98% average accuracy on day-by-day chart behavior for these monthlies. But before we do that, let's take a look at the July reading and see how we're doing thus far. Okay, well, our Netflix reading for July is looking pretty solid thus far. We're only on the 16th today, so only 2 weeks have transpired. But what we see this far, and this was a difficult reading to determine highs and lows. I think we did our best to interpret where the prominent highs and prominent lows will be, not so much highs and highest lows, because it looks like that was pretty difficult. But what we do have here is some unicursal energy on the 5th and some unicursal energy on the 13th. And you can see how we have this peak on the 5th, followed by a sharp drop off of the high, a sharp drop to trough or lowest low thus far. And in a lot of the readings, the 6th was a lowest low. So it's very possible that that ended up being a lowest low. That stone right there often indicates a lowest low. But most important is that unicursal energy, that big drop from a peak there. And then the other unicursal we have on the 13th, another peak there on the cusp of the 12th, 13th, and then a sharp drop off of that peak there the following day on the 14th. So the day-by-day chart behavior for this is pretty solid. And it looks like out of the low on the 3rd, one probably would have been able to position themselves, like we said in the paid version, in both directions around the amount of price movement here on the 3rd. And it does look like it's possible they could have made money to the upside here on the 5th and money to the downside here on the 6th. So that really holds pretty solid. Let's take a look at the 1 year real quick and see how we're doing. We had a low around the cusp of February, March, and it looks like we had that cusp in early March. So that was pretty solid, giving it 2 weeks wiggle room here or there. Sequence of events is pretty solid. We had a prominent trough and a prominent peak in January, prominent crest in February, prominent crest and peak in March. And then it looks like there was some rallying in early April, offered opportunity to open up a short position. That looked like it held pretty well. Opportunity in early May to open up a long position. And then we have a highest high in the end of May, a highest high correlation here in May. And then a highest high or higher high correlation here in June. And another highest high correlation here in July. And we've got a highest high in here in June. We've got a highest high here in July. This is holding up to be solid, guys. The 1 year, if you're wondering, the 1 year reading was created on October 10th, 2022 at 2:09 p.m. Eastern Time, still being used today. If you're interested in getting any of your tickers or crypto symbols covered, you can get a 1 year reading for 2024, 2025, or any year really for that matter. It's a great way to support the channel. You do that on our website here at tarottraders.com, tarotfortraders.com, under our services, SOMeta posts. Scroll down to our 1 year report. Click here. And this is where you would specify the year of the reading and the ticker or symbol that you're interested in. It takes about 2 weeks. Usually takes a lot less than that, but up to about 2 weeks before you get that report. But those are holding pretty solid. And what we're reading right now is what we were just reading, the 1 year for 2023 NFLX, is a good example of the type of information that you get with the 1 year report. It's a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much for that, guys. And with that said, we're going to get into the day-by-day chart behavior here for September. Okay, so day-by-day chart behavior. On the first, we have a prominent move higher followed by a full retracement of that move back down to where the move higher started. There's two local highs on a 1 day chart and a local low. By that, I mean there'll be two crests on a 1 day chart. Local highs are like 1 day chart kind of highs, so two crests and one trough on a 1 day chart. We have off for the 4th. On the 5th, we have a rally that increases with momentum moving forward in time. It does look like we have a gap down overnight, or at the very end of the day, a pretty sharp move to the downside. Probably a gap down overnight, and then on the 6th, a notable move higher, taking us to a peak or crest on the cusp of the 6th, 7th, or maybe the morning of the 7th. There's sideways rotation and a sharp drop within that period of sideways rotation where we revisit a support level that we recently met in the past, and that sharp drop will take us to a prominent trough for the month. Not a lowest low, but it'll stand out on a 1 month chart. On the 8th, we have a rally into a peak or crest at the end of the day. There's like a breakout at the end of the day to a peak or crest, but over the weekend it looks like we probably gap down over the weekend. On the 8th, we either have the completion of a bullish trend somewhere in the midst of the 8th, and we end up declining to a trough at the end of the day on the 8th. And if that's the case, then we gap up to a peak or crest on the 11th and sell off pretty notably to a trough midday. Or if we rally into the end of the day and there's a breakout to the upside at the end of the day, creating a peak or crest, then I'd say we gap down on the 11th with a rally to a peak or crest and then a sell off to a trough on the 11th. So one of those two options. On the 11th is like a peak or crest that'll stand out on a 1 month scale, and then a sharp decline. Somewhere around the 11th, 12th, we very likely have our lowest low thus far, possibly the lowest low for the month, but most likely the lowest low thus far, either on the 11th or more likely on the 12th. There's a notable reversal on the 12th out of oversold territory. Into the 11th, there's a big move to the upside standing out on a multi-day scale, taking us to a peak or crest there around the cusp of the 13th, 14th, and then there's a notable move to the downside overnight. A rally on the 14th that offers opportunity to open up a short position. We'll talk about the trades, the best trades that I see for the month in more detail in the paid version. But so far, there's been a notable trade on the 8th. A day trade on the 11th, a trade on the 13th, and a trade on the 14th. All significant trades I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. Guys, if you're interested in the paid version, I'll tell you guys how to get that. Go to our website, Tarot for Traders, to the Our Services tab, SO Meta Posts. Scroll down to monthly subscription. If you're interested in subscribing to any of these other tickers here, I highly recommend subscribing to the 250 for all paid subscriptions, and you get paid information about the best trades that we see for all of the tickers in crypto that you see here. Really highly recommend it. It's very valuable information. Thank you, my friends, to all of you that go and do that. On the 15th, a decline there after a notable move higher on the 14th into the 15th. It looks like a notable move there to the upside. There's a decline to revisit a support level there on the 15th, a decline there on the 15th to revisit a support level that we recently met once before. And it's possible that that decline then continues into the 18th. We may see a little bit of a rally early in the 18th, and then a halting of that rally marked by a sharp decline to key support on a multi-day scale, and that'll take us into a lowest low. Either it's the same low that we saw around the 11th, 12th, or it's a lower low that we'll see here on the 18th, 19th, probably the 19th, but it could be the 18th, 19th. On the 19th, we have a prominent move higher to a peak or crest. There's a trade opportunity there, and then there's a full retracement of that move back down. Sharp drop on the 20th, sharp drop that'll stand out on a 1 month scale, and we attempt to establish, there's a yellow correlation there, so we attempt to establish support on a multi-day scale there at the low. It's possible we see the lowest low there again, but it's less likely, so I put the translucent at like 25% rather than 50. In any case, there's a notable move. I'm advised not to chase the trend at the end of the day on the 20th, probably to the downside. The following morning, we gap up. There's a decline early in the morning to a trough, and then another move back up to the upside. So a notable move from a peak, from a gap up, a notable move down early on the 21st. To a trough or a peak, trade opportunity, and then a notable move to the upside back to a peak or crest there at the end of the day on the 21st. There's a a resistance level that we bump up against many times. We met it many times before and failed to break through, and we decline off of it here on the 22nd pretty notably. We most likely have our highest high here on the 25th or the 26th, hard to say. Likely that we gap up to a highest high and then we decline to and through support to meet a second support, and we rotate sideways along that support into the 26th. We rotate sideways on the 25th along support into the 26th, where on the 26th we see a big move to the upside, pushing the upper end of a range higher. Big move towards the end of the day, especially. On the 27th, we have an overbought peak or crest that we sell off from pretty notably through multiple support levels, and there's a prominent trough that stands out on a 1-month scale. Likely a decline, either a decline at the end of the day on the 27th, a notable decline at the end of the day from a peak. We have a gap down overnight, and there's a support level on the 28th on a multi-day scale, or probably on like a 1-year scale even, on a multi-month kind of scale, support level that's highlighted there on the 28th, and it can be relied upon. Although on the 29th we have a period of volatility, and within that period of volatility, there's a sharp drop that'll stand out. Also significant trade opportunities there on the 25th, 26th, 28th, 29th that we'll talk about in more detail, as well as there on the 20th and the 21st. The sneak preview for October, we have a big move to the upside in October, reaching for a distant resistance. And by distant, I mean not the nearest critical resistance, at least one resistance further than that. Usually it's more than just one, but it'll be a distant resistance. In some case, if there's no resistance to reach for, it'll be a distant new high. Based on the 1 year, I say there's a pretty significant move higher. We may even see highest highs again here around the cusp of October, November. With that said, guys, make sure to follow the rule of karma. It's super important that you follow the rule of karma for the channel to exist and continue putting out this content. It's essential that you guys follow the rule of karma. And the way that you do that, you go to our website, Tarot for Traders here, tarotfortraders.com. Under the resources tab, we're expecting that people who are profiting from this information, they're donating 5% of that money, that profit, forward to one of these charities. You just click on the link here and donate. It's super easy. And 5% of the profit should be donated back to the channel here, one of these links. If you're international, you can use the Wise app, and if you sign up for the Wise app through this link, I believe you can sign up for free, and that leaves you with 90% of the money left over. Make sure to spend that money out of love. As long as you follow those rules when profiting from this information, the universe is going to not only allow you to continue profiting from this information, but it's going to send it back to you tenfold through this channel, my friends. With that said, I'll see you guys on the next one. If you got the paid version, stay tuned.